Hello Stampers, my name is Linda Bedinger and I'm an independent Stampin' UP demonstrator. And today I have a little bit of a project that I've been working on, and this is using, and I'm going to change up the paper I'm using today, but I made these 5 cards using one sheet of 6x6 designer series paper from the designer series pack sealed with love. And so I'll be using this one today, and I'm going to suggest that you use one that doesn't have a directional pattern. It got very complicated cutting this to get the directional pattern exactly right, and there's plenty of them in there that are polka dots and little images that don't have a directional pattern to them. So these are the 5 cards that I made, and I have, we're going to cut this paper. I'm going to show you exactly how to cut it in order to make this work, and you get all of the pieces that you need. Now, what I used was the Love Notes framelit dies, which has all these wonderful Valentine's dies. I see in here I've got my one from the Sunshine Sayings. I did use this die for a heart for one of them, and it also has the word love, which I used for one of the cards. And so those two I used also from that Sunshine Sayings framelit set. Now, the other thing I did was I used 3 embossing folders. I used this new one, Falling Petals, that's new in the Occasions catalog, and it's got little hearts all falling down on the page. And I used this one. I used our regular hearts folder, and I used the Petal Burst folder to get some variation in the background for the cards. Now, stamp sets, I did use another stamp set, but I'm going to change that so there's only one stamp set that's being used, and it's this one, Sealed with Love. And I'm using Happy Valentine's Day, I'm using Hello Love, I'm using this heart, and I will be using one of these stamps to create a background. Let's see, I'm using this stamp here, these little hearts, and I think that might be it. But you'll see as we go, and I'll be sure and point them out as we move along. Okay, so what does it take to do this? Well, let's start with our piece of 6x6 paper. What I did was, and there are a lot of, this is called a one-sheet wonder, when you can use one piece of paper to get lots of different designs. So I'll have to be referring to my notes quite a bit here. But what I did here was I cut 2 inches off the bottom of this paper. So let me start with that. Two inches off the bottom. And from this piece, I cut 2 inches. So I ended up with a piece that is 2 by 2 and one that is 4 by 2. Then I cut this next piece at 3.5 inches. And what I'm going to do, and I'm going to show you how I did this, because I'm going to cut the 3.5 inch square out of this piece of paper. And what I do is, just so that I can see a little bit more clearly, I slide a piece of white in here so I can see the numbers on the line here. And I cut this piece, I gotta move that white a little bit out of the way. I cut this piece at 3.5 and I come to the 3.5 inch mark here and I stop. Then I turn my paper this way, and there's where I've cut my first 3.5 inch piece. Oops, I didn't quite get it cut. So there's where my 3.5 inch piece is. Now I'm going to set this back at 3.5, and I'm going to come back up here and put my paper back in so I can see where the 3.5 inch mark is. And I'm going to come down here and cut this right to 3.5. And hopefully this piece releases. It does. So now I have these 3 pieces. Now I'm going to take this piece and I'm going to set each point on one side of the card and the other right in the cutting channel here on the trimmer. And I'm going to cut that piece in half. So I have 2 triangles, large triangles. Now then, on this piece, I am going to cut this piece at 2 inches straight down. So now I have a 2 by 4 inch piece, and what I'm left with is this little triangle here. And what I'm going to do is I am going to put this one of these right in the cutting channel, and I'm going to slice this so I'll end up with 2 pieces, one that is 3.5 inches and one that is 4 inches, and each of these pieces is 1/2 inch. Now I'm going to take this one that is cut at 4 inches by 1.5, and I'm going to place it here on my cutting board so that it is right between the 2 1/4 inches on either side. Get that exactly up against this one line on this side, and close my trimmer blade, and so I get 2 1/8 of an inch pieces. And this didn't cut exactly, so I need to do just a little tiny trim on one of these pieces. So now I have a piece that is 1/2 inch by 3.5, and I have 2 that are 1/4 inch by 4 inches. And I'm going to use every single one of those pieces in making our cards. Okay, so what it's going to take to do this is card number 1. And so I'm going to put this little piece on here so you know it's card number 1. And card number 1 has a red card base, that is 8.5 by 5.5, scored and folded at 4 1/4. It also needs 2 white quarter panels, what I call quarter panels, which will, one for the inside and one for the outside. And these measure 5 1/4 by 4 inches. And then we need a piece of scrap red to cut out the heart and the love. Now, I've already done that on this one. So what we need is one of our large triangles here, and we need this piece embossed. So to save time, I have embossed this piece, and then I have one piece for the interior. All right, so let's go ahead, and I've also cut the pieces that I needed for this card on the Big Shot. And so we'll go ahead and put this one together. So this one is the embossed piece is set down on the card base, flat. The piece of designer series paper that we're going to put up here in the corner is raised on dimensionals. And don't despair, while this seems a little complex because there's lots of parts and pieces, I will have all of the instructions for each of the cards listed in the space below on the YouTube video. So all of the pieces, all of the sizes, all of the colors, what's embossed, what's cut, will be listed down below. So this one is going to go right up here in the corner. I want to have the same margin on the top and the side. And get that on there fairly straight. And there we have that on there. And for this piece, what I used was a few of the glue dots, and I rolled the glue dots over on themselves and then rolled them in my fingers until I got a little tiny roll. And there's a couple of places here on the back of the heart that you can place the rolled up glue dots. And I found a place for, 3 or 4 of them, just enough to make sure that my heart doesn't move. So here's another spot here. I will put that down there. Let's see. Another glue dot here, which I am going to place right down here. And the last glue dot I'm going to fold over on itself and then over again so that it's just a very small piece. And in fact, I'm going to roll that one into as close to a circle as I can get it, because this next spot isn't very big. So I put it there. Now I'm going to layer my heart here onto my card. And then for this one, I used Tombow. And there's definitely a right and a wrong side here. And I'm going to bring over my silicone mat here and see if I can't get a little bit of Tombow. There we go. On a couple places on this word. Doesn't have to be completely covered, just enough to keep it settled and glued onto the card. So there I have my love, and I'm going to move that right down here on the card. And let's see, on the inside of this one, I put a plain white panel, and then I used one of the stamps from the stamp set. There it is, the little heart. And for that, I need my red ink, a little red heart on 2 corners in the bottom. There we go. And so that is the decoration that I'm going to use on my card. So I'm going to put some snail on the back of my panel here and put that into place, and there we have card number 1. So I am going to now set that one aside, and we'll start on the next one. So card number 2 is this one, and I'm going to need this ink here in just a second, but I want to move it out of the way for now. This one has the other DSP panel here, and then it has, let me grab the material for number 2, and card number 2 has a white card base that is 8.5 by 5.5, scored and folded at 4 1/4. Then it has the DSP in one corner, and then it has a piece that is 5.5 by 4 out of real red, which I embossed with the hearts folder. So this is that piece embossed with the hearts folder. Then it requires a piece of real red that is 3 inches by 3 inches. And that I also embossed with the heart folder. So here's that one embossed with the heart folder. And then I needed a piece of white that was 2.5 inches by 2.5 inches. And then some ribbon. I'm not real happy with this ribbon, so I'm going to try a little different ribbon. It's just almost too much for this card. So, what I did in order to make this work here was that I set my card over the designer series paper here to get an idea of where I needed to cut this off. And I put a little pencil mark on both sides where I needed to cut the piece. So I took my trimmer and I put one pencil mark, there it is, one pencil mark up here on the top in the corner, and one down here in the corner, and got them right into the cutting channel, and I sliced that piece off. So this piece, let's make sure that that works. It does. So I am going to need to set this. It's going to have a very thin margin, but that's okay. So what I'm going to need to do is put some snail on the back of this embossed piece and put it into place so that I have the same margin on both sides. Then I took this piece and I raised it up on dimensionals. And then, well, actually it fits right up against it. So I'm not going to leave a space in between here. I'm just going to set it in place on that corner. And it's raised a little bit so you see a little peek of the white underneath. All right. Then I took my other piece here for the center, and what I decided to do was to use some of this new ribbon that is in the Occasions catalog, and it comes in white and red. And I think I'm just going to put it on this piece, and I'm going to put a couple of pieces on here. So let me cut that off and set this white. It's very easy to see if it's straight, because if your hearts are straight, then you know this is straight as well. And I think I'm going to put a couple pieces of this white along here, just like that. And then this piece I also raised on dimensionals. So I'm going to put some dimensionals on the back of this one. And I think I'm going to put kind of a row of them along the bottom, as well as some in the corners to just hold this piece in place. I noticed on this piece it wants to raise up. So I'm going to set that here so that it's, and maybe I'll cut another piece of that and do the same thing on the top. I don't know why it decided to raise itself, but it did, so we'll just take precautions so that that doesn't happen. And this is a big enough piece. I think I want something in the middle. All right. I keep trying to move on to other things, other projects, and I keep coming back to this bundle. It's just so pretty. And there's an awful lot that you can do with it, and I keep thinking of one more thing, and this idea came to me, that it would be a way to, if you only had a small piece of a designer series paper that might work for a project like this, this is a way to cut it so that you would use every little scrap and do 5 cards out of one piece of 6x6. So hopefully I'm going to get a good imprint of Happy Valentine's Day here. And we did. And this piece just needs to have some glue. And I'm going to put Tombow on this only because that's going over something that's been embossed, so it's not got flat surfaces, and so I want to make sure that this sticks down and stays put. So there we have the Happy Valentines. Let me move some of these things out of the way. And I'm going to center that on here and glue that down. I think I'll hold that in place for just a second. There, I think that's secure. Now I'm going to take a couple of lengths of this white ribbon and make a bow with 2 pieces of this. We'll see how I do here with, sometimes it's hard to manage just one, but we'll see how I do here. I'm going to add that bow with some glue dots. So a glue dot on the knot. Let's see if that's enough. and center that down below here. And there is our second card, and I do like this ribbon treatment a bit better than this oversized ribbon. So we have the double bow. What I'll do with this one is I'm going to put this flourish on the top inside, and then I have this little row of hearts, and if you've been watching some of my videos on another Valentine card, I use the little hearts just this way. I put them underneath the flourish to get a little row of hearts, and then I'm going to add one more little row of hearts and see how close I can get to centering these on the bottom. There we go. So there we have the second Valentine complete with the white ribbon. This does not feel like it's going to stay put. I'm going to add another glue dot or two here, right underneath the back of this there. That bow isn't going anywhere now. Okay, so there is the second Valentine using the one DSP. Okay, I'm going to move those out of the way and move on to the third Valentine. It's a red card base that is 8.5 by 5.5, scored and folded at 4 1/4. Then it's got two white panels that are 4 inches by 5 1/4, one for the inside and one for the outside. And the decoration on the inside of this one, in fact, I had not put the decoration on the inside of that, so I will do that while we finish this one. Okay, so the top piece I embossed in this pretty falling hearts, or what's it called exactly? Let's see if I can tell you again what it's called again. It's called falling petals. Falling petals. And so this piece is going to go on here just straight flat. So no raising, and I'll raise other parts of it on dimensionals. So this panel goes right here on the front, and then I have a piece cut that is 2.5 by 2.5, and what I did was I turned it to the diamond shape, and let's see, then I have a piece of designer series paper that I cut 2 inches by 2 inches, and on this one I turned this one over, and that's what I'm going to do here. So I'm going to glue this one to here first, and then raise this on dimensionals to add it to the card. So first I put some snail on the back of this piece, and then this piece is going to get a handful of dimensionals So I'm going to, let's see, I think I'm going to put this on this way. And then on this one, I cut out from the piece of scrap that I had the heart that has a lattice structure on it from the framelit set, and this cute little arrow. And what I've done is just put the arrow right here through the heart. Okay, so I'm going to put this heart on here, and I did that with a little Tombow. And when you have this, there's a couple of new techniques out there. One using a sponge that allows you to get your glue on very tiny places, and I'll show that at some point. I haven't perfected it myself, so I'm going to put a little bit of Tombow here on the back of my hand, and I am just going to gently move some of the pieces through the glue there onto the tip, and get my glue put in place, and then set that heart so that the heart, and I'm going to cover that a little bit, and yep, that's stuck down nicely. Then you'll recall that we had a couple of pieces of this this paper, and it's a 1/4 inch by about 4 inches, and what we're going to do is add some snail to the back of those two pieces and put them right here on the bottom of the card. And these came out just a little shy of 4 inches, so just so long as they're centered and they're similar, I think we're fine. So there we go, we have our two pieces. And on this one I got a little carried away, and I had this little heart cut out of designer series paper, but there was no place to cut out this heart in getting ready for this. So I cut out a little plain red heart, and I'm going to put a little bit of snail on the back of it and put it in this little blank space that's up here at an angle. And then I need my rhinestones, and what I have done is added a few rhinestones on this card to give it, perk it up just a little bit. And there's my paper piercer, and what I did was I cut 3 little hearts, or 3 little rhinestones, pardon me, where the adhesive goes along the back, so I could pick all 3 up at the same time and lay it down here on the quote-unquote feathers of the arrow. Then I took a small rhinestone and sent it in the center of my little heart here, and then I used 3 of the largest rhinestones and put them along the top piece of the DSP here at the bottom. And so on this one, then, put this away. On the inside of this one, I hadn't put any decoration, so I think I want to put this little heart again in there. So I've got my red ink off camera here, and I am going to put a little heart down here, and then let's see, let me see if I can find, I made a little mask by stamping a heart on a red piece of red cardstock and then cut it out, and that would allow me to put a second heart down here as though it were behind the first heart. And there you can see with the mask it does look like one is in front of the other. So that is the decoration I'm going to put on that one, and we will set this one in place. There we go. And that is the third card then completed. Now the next card, the fourth card, on this one what we have is this piece of designer series paper, and then we needed some scrap to cut out the little hearts. We needed a piece that is 5.5 by 3/4 of an inch. Then we need a piece of scrap white to cut out our sentiment. Then we need a piece, another piece that is two pieces that are 5.25 by 4, one for the inside and one for the outside. So there we go. And on that one I did use this wider ribbon, and actually it looks okay, but I think since it's now retired, I'm going to do what I did on the other one and use 2 strands of this little red ribbon that's available for us now. Okay, so on this one we also are going to use the other piece that we cut that was what is it? I guess it's 1/2 an inch. Yes, 1/2 an inch by about 3.5 inches, and we'll put that together. So the first thing I'm going to do is do my stamping on this, and on this one I use the Hello Love stamp, and I'm going to mount that on my D block here, Hello Love, and ink that up on my red ink pad and just put this down on this piece of scrap white. Lovely image. Okay, then in that case I'm using our decorative label punch, and I am punching out my Hello Love, and this card has a red base. They're all the same standard, 8.5 by 5.5, scored and folded at 4 1/4. Then this has a white panel on the front here, which I'm just going to put some snail on and adhere down, because that is adhered flat on the front of my card. Some days getting things straight is more of a challenge than others. All right, so there we have that piece, and I just realized I didn't put my ribbon on that. So I'm going to have to pick up that piece and see if I can recover from that. Okay, so what I'm going to do is take 2 pieces of ribbon that, let me tell you how long these are. It's about 7 inches. So 2 pieces at 7 inches. And what I'm going to do is put them on the back of my card here, attaching them to the snail and trying to get that. I have to add some more snail here. You can be more careful than I was and get your ribbon on exactly right before you put your card down. I'm going to see if I can put this piece back on here. There we have our piece. Then our piece of designer series paper, which I put up on dimensionals. So we'll grab some dimensionals here. So there we go. Now I'm going to center that. Well, actually, the ribbon is a little higher than center, but that's about where I want that. Then I'm going to take my piece that is 5.5 by 3/4 of an inch and put that in place. Those ends pretty glued down here, and put that in place across the bottom of the card. Then this piece will just go in the center of this red just to carry the pattern over. And center that piece. There we go. All right. Then out of my scrap, I cut a couple of these articulated hearts, and these have score lines on them right down the middle that allow you to fold the heart up on 2 sides. And what it does is it gives you a place to add some glue, not only on the rim of the heart here, but on its spine. And so I'm going to do that with a little bit of Tombow. Now I'm going to take my sentiment, and I did also raise that on dimensionals. So I just put 3 across the back here and put that in the center of my designer series paper. There we go. Now then, I added a few of the rhinestones And again, what I did on this one was I cut 4 and 4 to go down the spines of the heart. It doesn't completely cover the spine, so I kind of centered them in the middle of the heart. On a previous card, I made them go all the way down, and it took like 7 or 8 of them. And I think less is more in this case on these rhinestones down on there. Then I placed one of the largest rhinestones right up here on the corner, and then I put 2 medium ones on either side of this little band here at the bottom. So there we have the front of this pretty well done. Let's see what I put on the inside. Yes, I double stamped that same little heart again, which we can do. And let's see, I need my five and a quarter by 4-inch piece, and my heart, which I will put here in the corner, and then use my mask again to cover that heart, re-ink my stamp, and add a second heart as though it were behind the first. Not a great image. Let's see if I can. Yeah, not bad. Okay. Well, the mask stuck to here, so it was exactly, I knew exactly how to place it back on there again to get it right. So this one is going to go on the inside of this card, and that completes our card number 4. I have a One Sheet Wonder product that I got from France Martin, Frenchie, that is one that is an 8.5 by 11 sheet, and it makes 8 cards. And I've done that in a class. It's kind of a long one. I don't know if I can do a video on it. I'd have you here for half a day. So we'll see. All right, anyway, there is card number 4. Card number 5 is kind of a fun one, and we should have, oh, I never cut this in half, I don't think. Yeah, this is the piece that's 4 by 2, and this needs to be cut in half, so I have two 2-inch square pieces. So let me do that here. And this is on a white card base. A white card base that is standard 8.5 by 5.5, scored and folded at 4 1/4. And then this one has, this has moved on me, and that's, sometimes when I'm doing prototypes, I'll do it in repositioning tape just so I can take things off and put them back. That just had moved a little bit. All right, so this one, I used basic gray to add a little bit of a different look to this. And so on this, I had 2 pieces of basic gray, one that is 1.5 by 3.5 inches, and this one is 3.5 inches square. then I have a piece of white, and my piece of white measures 3 inches square and is embossed with the hearts, falling hearts folder. So this will layer on here, and then I have a piece of scrap, and we'll put this sentiment here, hello love, and then this is just great fun. We create our own butterfly, and it's a little folded paper technique, and I'll show you how to do that. And they're kind of fun to add to all kinds of things. Anyway, so here's the pieces that we need. The other white piece measures 3 3/8 by 1 3/8, and that's going to layer onto that one. Okay, and so we also have a piece of red, and on the inside of this one I have red and white layered with a Happy Valentine's on the inside. For the outside, red panel for the inside, and then a smaller white piece for the inside to get that layering effect. And those are, this smaller white piece is cut at 5 inches by 3 3/4 inches. And these two pieces are cut at 5 1/4 by 4 inches. Okay, so this piece layers flat on the card. Let me get some of this stuff out of the way here. So this we can go ahead and layer down on the outside of our card. And get that on here. Then on the gray piece, I did measure this to be flat on here, only because the folded butterfly has quite a bit of depth to it, and so I thought that these pieces here could go on flat, and then our embossed piece, add plenty of glue to that and get that centered on this piece as well. Now, for folding the little butterflies, let me show you how that's done. It's kind of a fun thing, and they could be added to any card. What I do is fold this paper point to point, and let's see, grab my embossing bone folder here, and this paper holds up pretty well for that. And it's very important that this be folded as flat as possible, because by the time you get all of the folds going, this stands up a little bit. It's got a little edge there. I'm going to trim that away because I don't want some runaway rhinestones there. Same thing on this side. It must not have been cut square. So we'll just trim it up and make it square. There we go. All right. So once this has been folded, then we're going to fold the other way. So we're going to get this folded here so that we have a fold going in each direction. going to go back to my previous fold and bend it this way. Back to my previous fold and bend it over. Okay, so that's what I have at this point. And what I'm going to do now is fold this piece up, and I would say it's about a little bit more than 1/4 of an inch. I would say it's about 3/8 of an inch. And I am going to fold this so that my crease marks on here match. So I'm going to do both of them up about 3/8 of an inch. Get your crease marks to match. And there you have the next step. So fold it over in half and then fold up again. And then from this center point here, I want to fold this little wing back, but I want it to be very shallow. So I am going to come up from this point just above this little, I'm going to go from the center fold here and take this piece up so that it's just above this little angle. And again, using my bone folder, I'm going to do that on both sides. And there you have one of the wings of your butterfly. And what I'm going to do is separate these two little pieces of paper here at the back. And what we're going to do is I'm going to glue this one on the back side down so that this can stand up a little bit and give us the effect of wings. Okay, so I'm going to fold this one now from that center fold to just above that angle and get that okay. Then separate these two so that I've got my angle, and there we have our two little wings for our butterfly. So on these, what I'm going to do, since this is raised, I am going to use Tombow on the bottom of this, a generous amount of glue, and I'm going to place it so that it's the same distance from this edge as it is from this edge, and move that down into place. Hold that in place for a second. Now what I'm going to do, in order to get the measurement right from one side of the wings to the other, I'm going to go ahead and lay down one of these largest rhinestones right here in the center, right at the fold, because that's a part of the body. I put one more large rhinestone up above there for the head, and the tail kind of walks away, and I'll show you about that. But that allows me to figure out the spacing for putting the second set of wings on there. So here we go again, a generous amount of glue. I think this Tombo's almost done. And set my second set of wings down and hold that in place. Until Tombo has had a chance to get a grip here. There we go. And there we have our butterfly. Now we can add the rest of our rhinestone detail to give him a body. And you can see what I did here is I put one more up above here and put that into place. And then I took my real red marker on the point and put in a couple of little antennae for him. Then I used, let's see, I put one more large one down below. Here. Then I used the next size down. And I put, I think on this one I'm going to have the tail going this way. And let's see, I've got another one here that just ran away. Put that one down there. And then I used two of the smaller ones on the end. And there we have our little folded butterfly. Very nice. Kind of fun to do something different. There's a lot of old folding techniques, and I honestly can't remember where I picked this one up. I watch a lot of old videos on YouTube. I go back to 2008, 9, 10, when they really approached this a little differently, and it's kind of fun to see what they did to try and get something a little different. And every once in a while I'll pick up this, and I've had these folded butterflies trying to figure out what I was going to do with them because I just loved them. And I thought it would work well here. I'll have to go back and research, and if I figure it out, I'll put it on the notes below where this idea came from. So the next thing we're going to do is finish our stamping here. And I used the Hello Love centered on the white piece here. And then I had used Gorgeous Grunge to put a little bit of faded gray dots on there, but I'm thinking that what I'll do is maybe use this little stamp here. Let me put that on a block so you can see it and ink it up. And it's that one. It's got little hearts and little leaves. And I thought if I did that and then just used some scrap paper here, pardon my reach, I'll grab one from this side, it's easier. Okay, and stamped off, and then just put a faint little pattern on the back of this. Just to give it a little more interest. There we go. Just to have a little something on there so it's not quite so plain. And I'm going to use snail on the back of this and put that on my basic gray piece here. Looks like there's a little edge there that needs to be trimmed off. It's still not straight. One more time. Add some more snail. I'm definitely having my troubles here getting things on straight. There, that's a little bit better. And then I raised this piece up on dimensionals. And then put that in place right along the bottom here. And there we have our butterfly card. Now on the inside of this one, I used a red panel and then a white panel that would go on the inside. So that's just a matter of adhering these two together. And then I did some stamping on the white panel. Probably dangerous to put this down before I do my stamping, but all right. And then on this last piece, I used the Happy Valentine's Day stamp, and I did that in gray ink. But you know, I think I'm just going to go ahead and do it in red. See if I can add that Happy Valentine's Day. There we go. And add that to the inside of this card. And that is it. That is the 5 cards using one piece of DSP and many supporting pieces. But to get a consistent kind of look, this would make a fun note card set that either didn't have any sentiment or just said just a note. But the idea is learning how to use one piece of 6x6 DSP to make the cards. So let me bring them back now. These are the ones that we made. This is it. Okay. So there you have it. 5 cards using the Scent with Love, one piece of 6x6 designer series paper. And on this one, all I did was turn it over and use the other side to give a little bit of something different. But this would work with any number of projects. And there you have it. So thanks so much for coming by and watching my YouTube channel today. If you don't already have a Stampin' Up! Demonstrator, I'd love to be your demonstrator, or you could join my team. Right now is a wonderful time to join Stampin' Up. The normal sign-up is $99, and you get $125 worth of product for that $99. That's pretty good. But right now there's an additional offer to get 2 extra stamp sets for free if you enroll during this period. And I think it only goes as long as Celebration goes. So it's a wonderful time to sign up and join Stampin' Up, and I would love to have you be on my team. Again, thanks for watching. Everything I've got here you can order on my 24/7 shop, www.lbedinger.stampinup.net. And I hope you enjoyed this project, and you may want to give it a try. Whether you do it in a Valentine's theme or some other theme, it's a really interesting way to use one 6x6 sheet, a one-sheet wonder, and get 5 cards. So until next time, bye.